Uh, Thank you all for coming. We've been working with this for a great number of months, as I guess long before some other people figured out there was an issue between domestic, or seemingly an issue between domestic and wild sheep. And we got together and we decided that the best way to start solving this issue is to get the science on the table, figure out where both industries, and I call the wild sheep an industry, and you'll have to forgive me for that, and our industry, which is domestic sheep. We got to get those things together and get science on the table so that we can solve whatever issues it is we need to solve. So I'm Dave McEwan. I was appointed to be representative of the Montana sheep industry for the Montana Wool Growers Association. There isn't a grander set of people to work for. They're generational, many times over in the state of Montana. They're from Montana. They're what everything there is about Montana that's here. Those people are Montana. So I wanted to talk about the sheep industry in today's Montana. And I think to do that, we have to do a little bit of history. The sheep came to Montana in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, 70s. And at that time, they were being crowded out by the cattle industry that came to Montana from Texas, Nebraska, all the southern states. Free grass, we're going to get it, and they drove on. And at the time, we had a gentleman come out of Minnesota that was a wool processor. And he got on the ground floor of one of the largest flocks of sheep in Choteau County at that time, and decided that we needed to be organized, which is a scary thought for sheep herders. So in 1883, he brought us to the Grand Union, which is still there today. I guess that shows the sustainability of our industry. And we formed what is now and has been Montana Wool Growers Association. We're a little bit behind. The American sheep industry was formed in New York in '65. So actually that makes us a part of not only the oldest livestock organization in the United States, but as well as the oldest one in the state of Montana. We are a part of the second oldest profession in the world, which we're kind of proud of. So that being said, life went on in Montana, and the winter of '86, '87 found the demise of the iconic cattle industry. Mother Nature showed everybody who was boss. The sheep industry survived. And you say, well, why did the sheep industry survive? The sheep were a managed species. We managed them. We made sure they were in the right spot come winter, as winter is probably one of our most traumatic times of year in this country. And we survived. And after that, we moved in with a passion. Charlie Bear moved in, and he had to remind the Europeans that he probably had more dogs than they had sheep. And he was the largest sheep grower in the state of Montana at one time. They still run sheep on Charlie's place. And we moved in from every direction. Paradise Valley, all these sheep came from California up through Nevada, Idaho, into the Smith River, clear out east to the Big Dry, if you've ever been out there. The Norwegians moved into the Big Timber. They're always my favorite folks to give a lot of trouble to. Into the Judith Basin, into Phillips County, into the Beaverhead, probably one of the reasons we're all sitting here today, and into the Helena Valley. They came by the truckload, most of them walked. In 1900, we had 3.5 million sheep in the state of Montana. At the same time, we had a bag limit on bighorn sheep of 8. I don't think there was a problem at that time. We don't know that. were merely suspect that there wasn't. And it was a good time in the state of Montana. Since that time, the sheep numbers have dropped significantly in the state of Montana. We probably run about 10% of what we did then, but we have shown an increase in our industry in the last couple of reporting years of 2% annually. That gives us more economic base and a little more economic leverage to actually promote our product as we see fit. We in Montana grow one of the finest set of feeder lambs in the nation. We can argue that point, but most people will lose when they get a group of us in a corner. And we grow the finest red meat protein there is in the business. Not only the finest, but the safest. And we always like to tell everybody, ours is 15,000 miles closer than anybody else's. That being said, our industry has grown. I say grown, you have to say that and use it as a relative term, because of research, collaborative research with MSU and USDA ARS. These people are responsible for our genetic mapping, our nutrition, our range science, and there's one other thing that I'm forgetting there. But anyway, these folks are the one we've invested as producers into these people, and these people have continued to give us the information to make our industry as viable as it is. So the first thing that we all like to talk about is wool, because it's exciting. Wool hasn't changed a lot. It still takes a great deal of effort to move, takes a great deal of effort to get off the ewe, and fortunately we have a process at Montana State where we have actually set quality grades and standards within the world in our wool with researchers at Montana State. And Dr. Whit Stewart's here, and he will elaborate a little bit on something. So as we did that, we also invested nationally into a program we call a superwash program. This superwash program has advanced the use of wool, not like your grandmother had. Now it's something that if you haven't checked out the new wool, you need to check out the new wool. It is a product that is unbelievable. And we have invested within ourselves to do this and keep this industry alive. Montana has the cleanest, highest quality wool in the United States. We can say that, and we're proud as hell of it. And it's because of research from MSU that we keep that process going. We're good at what we do. We're redressing the military, and we're creating a fabric that is next to none. You as consumers have the choice today on how much of a carbon footprint you get to make. The clothing industry is one of the highest polluting industries in the United States, with the exception of all natural wool. So you can make that choice on carbon footprint. I don't think there's much of a choice. Out of MSU and ARS, they developed a program we call target grazing. This is the environmental part of our industry, where we think we have less footprint on the ground today than anybody else in the animal husbandry industry. We have a huge problem in the state of Montana in our environment, and it's called invasive weeds. We, as sheep people, have the solution to that. And if we're going to continue to create a forage situation for our wildlife or for our domestic animals, we have to address this issue. We have it right now, it's being documented of the spread of leafy spurge down the Missouri River corridor. It's growing at its fullest potential. We also have one of the nicest herds or population of bighorn sheep in the nation. They're setting world records out of that population. That population cannot sustain itself with this. At least we've never heard from a nutritionist where wild sheep are consuming leafy spurge. Plus a population density issue with prairie dogs, elk, buffalo, and whatever else is coming up the river, and this is moving down the river. There has to be some collaboration between our two industries, our two people, so that we can at least address this issue and provide forage on this side of the fence. It has to be done. Our industry within the state of Montana also puts together the Montana Ram Sale. This is from genetic mapping, predictability within those genetics, within those traits. It all came out of ARS and Montana State University. This is the only sale in the nation of its kind. We can tell you exactly what trait we are looking for to advance our breed of sheep, whatever breed that may be. And we're extremely proud of that. When these rams come to Miles City for sale, they have a complete health workup. They have a gene workup for scrapie resistance, plus the indicators of growth potential, wool fineness, and so forth down the line. Our industry is doing this, has done it. So what are our issues? Everything's rosy in the sheep business. So what are our issues? Well, in the state of Montana, we have a huge issue. It's called environment. That's actually a nice day in my backyard. And that issue is because there are so many extremes. And those play havoc on our management practices to prevent the things we're going to talk about today. We have nutritional stress. We have learned that if we don't keep things fed, if we don't keep things up, we have stress. It causes problems with what we're going to talk about today. We have population density. You can't run too many sheep, too many cows, and then throw a handful of horses in there and make it work. You're going to have problems. And we have handling stress. We know that if we want proper lamb recruitment, we cannot shear 5 days before lambing starts. We know that. We cannot handle sheep 2 days before we turn the rams out and get a conception rate when we want to start lambing. We know these things. We know these things because MSU has done the work. We've done the work as animal scientists ourselves, and it's proven. And then we have situational stress, and we deal with this. We've dealt with this ever since sheep's inception. And this is a huge process that we still haven't found the answer for. And I dare to say the bighorn people have the same issue. This just shows a value, and this is a value concerning wolves and grizzly bears, but the thing that we would like to point out on this doesn't show the percentage drop in conception rates. This doesn't show the stress level to create a pneumonia outbreak. This doesn't show the lack of lamb recruitment. This just shows what it costs us in actual debt. So we say, okay, what's the consequences in our industry with all of these things? And I want to make this very, very clear. We raise second cousins, or the wild sheep are second cousins. I don't know which is first. One of the two of them is a second cousin to each other. So when we talk about sheep and they talk about behavior with bighorn sheep, and we relate it to domestic sheep, there are so many parallels. It's almost spooky. In fact, I said the other day that I had some Rambouillet sheep that I thought might score better than some wild sheep in Boone and Crockett. So what do we deal with? Well, this is their second cousins, I'll guarantee you. I've had several calls and say, well, why would you think they're second cousins? This is a crossbreeding program that is not condoned or looked for or anything else. Those are half wild sheep. That was a loose ram somewhere that got in. And that's within the last 6 years. So what do we deal with? We deal with abortions. We deal with bad bags, or what we call blue bag in our situation. We deal with bad milk, no milk. Is it nutritional? Is it environmental? It's all of those things. So when I have a no milking ewe, I have a lamb that comes up to get those antibodies to survive the pneumonia, and there's no milk there. We don't know if it's a chicken and the egg deal. We don't know if it's the pneumonia that kills the lamb or the hollow belly that kills the lamb, but I'll guarantee you the lamb will be dead. We deal with pink eye, abortion from handling at the wrong time. We deal with chlamydia. We deal with sore mouth. These are all stress-related diseases. We don't have silver bullets to vaccinate our sheep. These are all environmental stress, nutritional stress, handling stress that brings the onslaught of these events. Internal parasites. I think bighorn have internal parasite issues too. So when we're stressed, these internal parasites magnify the problems. And yeah, we have pneumonia too. We deal with pneumonia on a seasonal basis every year. Pneumonia can kill us. We don't make the paper because we had a 20 or 30% die-off and somebody's hurt. In fact, you probably won't even hear about it because it's not the kind of thing somebody wants to say or wants the neighbors to know. But we know what causes that. We know the triggers that cause it, and we manage for it so it's a manageable issue rather than a crisis issue. And if our industry can say anything today, it is that we need to manage to prevent this crisis incident. I'll let the technical people explain that. This is the other thing we need to manage against is bad publicity. I don't know. I'm going to be frank now. So Quentin, you can cover your eyes. We need to stop insinuating. We need to work together. We need to quit making statements that aren't true because we know scientifically they aren't true. And it doesn't do any good to progress this movement with that kind of public output. And as a leader of our organization, I would really like to sit down and eliminate this kind of thing. This incident did bring up some protocol that I would ask that we all work on, and that is we moved sheep into an area. The health protocol should have been that we know whether those sheep were infected with anything before they came over, no different than if I send sheep to Wyoming or Idaho. And we should have known directly after if they were infected. These things don't take forever to get done. We should have known if those sheep were bred, and we don't know. And those are things that have to happen on the ground when the situation presents itself, and we would like to know that so that we can solve these issues. Maybe conflict or commingling isn't as big a deal as we think it is. Maybe it's a bigger deal for us than it is for the wild sheep. But unless we follow a protocol and everybody looks at this, we'll never know that. Our sheep are healthy. Our sheep are healthy. We have the healthiest sheep flocks in the nation. I think that's just, I'm standing on a box. But our sheep are healthy. There's no economic value if they aren't. To suggest we're not is offensive to our industry. With that being said, I guess I'll take whatever question or criticism or rocks or whatever else you got. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what statements did you say, or do you say are false, specifically?
If you go back, pathogens that do not affect the health of domestic sheep. That's a false statement. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Your domestic sheep, you're constantly giving them salt year-round, like safeguard.
Yep.
Excuse
me, Monty, I just want to make sure that we get that. Yep.
Thank you, John.
There you go.
I love this.
There you go, you're on.
But you're constantly feeding salt to your sheep 12 months out of the year. You don't just dump salt out, blocks of salt. And what types of salt will take care of a lot of these parasites? You know, could you tell everybody in here that? The effectiveness of that salt program.
Okay,
Salt.
first of all, Dr. Stewart is here, and he's just completed a mineral study and a mineral survey for the state of Montana, and I think you'll find as much variance in mineral and salt needs in domestic sheep within your neighbors as you will within the state. It runs the gamut. But I can tell you that to feed just plain salt in today's world doesn't get it. We feed a mineral. That salt, that mineral has nothing to do with internal parasites. There is a feed additive that you can use to clean internal parasites out of, and John can help me with this. I think he's been using Safeguard. Otherwise, it's a drench program. We're fortunate in the state of Montana that when it gets like it has been the last couple of weeks, we can kill just about every worm that's growing in the grass. July and August will generally do that for us as well. If you're on irrigated property, then you have problems with internal parasites.
Thanks, Dave.
Get me out of here.
Hey, Dave.